Welcome to Peace, the Pulse of Humanity World Conference 2020. And today I'm so excited to have with me Aadil Palhivala. I had to look at my paper to see the spelling because his name is actually very phonetically spelled. But before we welcome this master of yoga, I'm going to read his bio because it's quite extensive and we're so honored and privileged to have him here with us. With degrees in law, physics, and mathematics, Aadil is one of the world's top yoga teachers and for over 45 years has had the reputation as the teacher of teachers, since the world's finest teachers study with him. His passion is to create health, wealth, and happiness in the lives of his students who truly embrace Purna Yoga's teachings and lifestyle. He began his study with B.K.S. Iyengar at the age of 7 and was the youngest person to be awarded the Advanced Yoga Teacher certification from Iyengar at the age of 22. He has been training yoga teachers in India, Asia, Europe, and the United States since 1976. Aadil writes for Yoga Journal magazine and been an asana expert for both the magazine and website. He is frequently a keynote speaker internationally. Aadil is the author of 3 teacher training manuals and Fire of Love, the book that seeks to restore the essence of yoga. Aadil is a certified shiatsu and Swedish body worker and a clinical hypnotherapist and has extensively studied alternative health and Ayurveda. Aadil is the co-founder and co-director of internationally renowned Alive and Shine Center in Bellevue, Washington, and Purna Yoga College, a teacher training program. Welcome, Aadil.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us today with everything that you're directing and co-founding and everything like that. I'm sure you have a busy schedule. So thank you for being here to impart your wisdom to impact humanity.
It's an outright pleasure, Mimi. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Before we start, did you want to start with some Oms?
That would be beautiful. In fact, let us start with some Oms and the great Om Bhurvah Svaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvah Svaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvah Svaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Gently bow your head slightly forward out of respect for this ancient lineage. Inhaling, let your head rise. Slowly open your eyes and release. So welcome to our session. So Mimi, if it's okay, I would love to discuss why we did this great Gayatri mantra. Yeah?
Would be a great idea.
The Gayatri mantra, the one that we did just now, was given by the sage Vishwamitra. This is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And our recent research with Graham Hancock and all the other research that is going on in undersea exploration of ancient civilizations, we are beginning to realize that the lineage of yoga is far older than we thought. 5,000 years is what we thought. But now that we're discovering the ancient cities that are mentioned in our manuscripts, we thought they were mythological. But now we've actually found them in the ocean floor outside the state of Gujarat and down in the east near Pondicherry. We are realizing that yoga may be tens of thousands of years old and not just 5,000 years old.
Wow.
So this Gayatri mantra is the root of the oldest extant scripture known to the human race, which is the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is where the hymns and the instructions of great masters were recorded in an oral tradition, which were put into writing centuries later. And this particular mantra is the root of that lineage.
Wow.
Given by the sage Vishwamitra, it basically says, O divinity that manifests as light, represented by the sun, come fill our consciousness. So it's divinity that manifests as light. You're not light, you're not darkness, you're just manifesting as light. Represented by the sun. You're not the sun, but you're represented on our planet by the sun. Come fill our yona, which means all of us. It's not a mantra for me. It's a mantra for humanity. Come fill our consciousness. And this is what we are dealing here. For peace to happen on planet Earth, we have to have an illumined mind, not a numb mind.
Right.
Yeah. So Vishwamitra, Vishwa in Sanskrit means world, and Mitra means friend. So Vishwamitra is the friend of the world. And in that embrace of friendship, he gave us this great mantra, the Gayatri mantra. So it's one of the oldest extant mantras known to the human race. That's why we start every class. Whenever I teach a class, no matter where it is, whether it's in Jerusalem with Jewish rabbis, or whether it's in the Vatican with Christian monks, or whether it's, I mean, I've taught everywhere in the world. We always start with the Gayatri because it's completely neutral. It doesn't invoke any image, it doesn't invoke any god. It simply says divinity.
Right. Right. That's so great. So since we're in beginnings, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you and your family came into yoga, or why you started doing yoga. I believe it was centered around your birth.
Yes, actually, Mimi, my mother could not conceive. She was doing a lot of gymnastics, and the ligaments of her uterus had broken and her uterus had flipped over. It's called a retroverted uterus. And because of that, she could not conceive. And then after 7 years of marriage, my parents sort of felt that, it might be something they want to do, get serious about it. So they tried to conceive in very, very varied ways, but it was absolutely unsuccessful. My father is one of India's greatest legal minds, and so he was talking to all his friends. My mother was a lawyer with the largest female practice of the Bombay bar. And so one day she was just sitting at the bar and talking to one of her co-devils and saying that, I want to get pregnant, but I don't know what to do. I've talked to my gynecologist and he says to try yoga. And I don't know what yoga is, because we are Parsis. You see, we are Zoroastrians. So we have some different lineage, even though we've lived in India for 2,000 years. We've not really merged with the population because of a promise we made when we came. And because of that, we did not know anything about yoga. I was brought up with talking about Darius and Cyrus and all that, not about the Indian kings. The person sitting next to her was, again, a famous lawyer, Palhivala. And he looked at her and said, yoga, there is only one man. BKS Iyengar. And she said, who? Because nobody had heard of BKS Iyengar in 1956.
Right.
Now, of course, he's recognized by Time magazine as being one of the 100 most influential men of the century. And so she started studies with him. And she went up to him and she said, first question, there were like 4 or 5 people in class in those days, so it wasn't really a major event. He said, first question, do I have to be vegetarian to do yoga? And he said, no, but a time will come when you get a distaste for meat, then stop eating it. And so my mother was very happy because Parsis are known to be very prodigious meat eaters. So, but a time did come. It was many, many, many decades later, but she finally stopped eating meat. But then she said, but I've got many, many problems. I've got thyroid problems. He said, no, don't tell me any problems. Let us just do the practice of asana. And so she started to practice. And as she was practicing, he would tell her what her problems are. So you have arthritis. So you have kidney problems. So you have thyroid problems. By seeing her body, he could see her problems.
Wow. And
so she developed a great trust in him. And he said, well, if you want to get pregnant, you have to have your husband join class. And so my father joined. And in a few years, Iyengar said he was the greatest student he's ever had.
Wow.
And right enough, my mother got pregnant in about 2 years. And I was the first child. But BKS Iyengar never let her practice alone. That you only practice when I'm there, so I make sure everything is flowing in the correct way, make sure everything is adjusted properly, and he'd be there all the time, adjusting. She got pregnant the second time. This time Iyengar was in Europe teaching. And so she did not practice based on his instructions.
Right.
And she miscarried. So she miscarried the second time. Third time, she got pregnant. He was in town. So I have a second brother. Fourth time she got pregnant, he was in town. So I have a third brother.
Yay! That's so great. You know, there are a variety of questions that I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if it's appropriate for this interview. So I just mixed 2 thoughts together. So there are a variety of questions that I wanted to ask you, and then based on what you just said, there was something else that I wanted to ask you, and you can tell me whether you want to go down that road or you want to talk about something else. I find it so fascinating that the yoga supported your mother, not just for her infertility challenges, but her thyroid and her other things. Because right now I'm dealing with a similar thing. I'm not infertile because I'm over 61 and I've already reached, menopause. I've got fibroids in my uterus that are quite large, and I haven't been able to, let's say, just have them leave from my body in a natural sense. And I said to myself that after 10 years of trying, that I would go and I would get the surgery that the doctors keep wanting me to do, and I keep coming up against another method. Is yoga something that could potentially help me?
It's a big question because there are many types of fibroids. And if it is a pure fibroid, that means it is really dense matter and it does not have any liquid in it. Then there are two major methods that have worked. Number one is...
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. I don't know if fibroids is the thing we should be talking about on a peace conversation. That was what was there for me, but maybe after this conversation we can continue that.
I think you're right.
And good idea. But I'm sure that there are other people out there that are dealing with some kind of physical challenges, and it's just great to know that yoga potentially could support those challenges, whether it's infertility or fibroids or other things. Am I correct in making that statement?
Absolutely, Mini, but it's not yoga because that's just a label. People are teaching yoga in gymnasiums and people are teaching yoga online. It's not yoga. Right. It's the type of yoga. It's the clean system which has a lineage which has been vindicated for a long time. So when you're talking about Purna Yoga or Iyengar Yoga, those are systems where the people who are trained actually understand the system of yoga. Our training for our graduation as an ambassador of Purna Yoga is 2,000 hours. Most teachers learn for 200 hours, with another teacher who's only learned for 200 hours. So the lineage doesn't go down unless there's enough of tradition and an understanding.
Right, so it's purity. So I'm guessing that that's the kind of yoga you practice on a daily basis for the last 45 years.
Yes, I started when I was 7 years old because Iyengar would not teach anybody who was younger than 7.
Right.
And so now it's been, I'm 61. So.
Oh, okay. You were born in 59. I'm 61 too.
Oh, yes, I was born in 59.
I'm going to ask you some questions as a layman to this world. So my first question to you is, what is the difference between yoga and something like Tai Chi?
Whether it's Tai Chi or it's Qigong or any of the martial arts, even though Tai Chi is a more slow martial art, the purpose is slightly different. The purpose of the practice of yoga is not just mental peace. The purpose is a connection with the divinity that is within us, that is without us, and bringing that divinity, according to the work of Sri Aurobindo, bringing that divinity into your body and then manifesting it in your day-to-day life. So the practice of yoga is a living movement in the moments of your life, rather than something you do and then live your life separately. So really, yoga is the way in which you live. The physical practice is nice. It helps the body become aligned. It helps the brain become calm. It helps your organs work better. It helps your spine be erect. It helps you feel more fresh and more alive. But that is not yoga. Yoga is about the relationships you have, the three relationships. The relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with others, and the relationship you have with the earth, which is our mother. How do we treat our earth? How do we treat other people? And how do we treat ourselves? These three relationships are the core of the practice of yoga.
Mm. Okay. So I just had this thought, like, how did we get so off that we've, as a race, a large majority of the race, forgot all that we forgot that connecting with source or the divine is part of an everyday practice, a moment-to-moment practice. Because if we did that, right, there would be inner peace and there would be peace on the planet. So it's clear that somewhere along the line, that got forgotten.
Absolutely. And in the teachings of yoga, whether you're taking the ancient tradition, the Vedic tradition, or whether you're looking at the most recent great yogi of our time, Sri Aurobindo, the understanding is that there is built in to us a counterpart to the light, so that there is an adventure, so that there is a movement, so that there is a reason for self-exploration. Because in the wholeness of creation, if you look at it from the Aurobindonian model, God is an evolving creature. You see, in a religious model, we think of God as being perfect. In the yogic model, we think of God as being a being that is exploring and growing. So in that process, in the manifestation in our body, manifestation in the earth, it's exploring its different aspects. And one of those aspects is ego, which we call asmita. So ego is that which takes us away from the light. And when we cannot recognize it, then it causes all these problems. So if you think about the problems that we have in our world today, all of them can be traced back to ego. Every single one.
Which leads me to ask, there's got to be a reason why we have ego to begin with, right? The divine or source gave us ego to serve us, not that we serve it. Would be a good way to put that. I think I answered my own question.
Actually, Mimi, Sri Aurobindo, in the booklet Thoughts and Glimpses, writes, ego was the helper, ego is the bar. So in the beginning, you need that ego as a child to survive in the world.
Right.
But once you've passed that third matrix, you reach the age of 21, then it's time to realize that, now I have to let go of my ego. Now I have to serve my spirit and the world.
Yeah, it's so important that you say that to me, because it never occurred to me until, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, that there are stages of life. Like, you know, when the fetus is growing in the uterus, there's stages of growth. It never occurred to me, other than child, teenager, adult, other than that, it didn't occur to me that there were stages of being an adult in terms of mindset, in terms of emotional or spiritual development. And when I started to notice it, I started to write it down because it'll be a book one day. But I think it's great to point out to our readers, whether 20 or 40 or 60, you are in a chapter of your life, if you will, that may or may not be different in 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, because life is not meant to be the same. Life is meant to be in motion.
Exactly. In fact, Joseph Chilton Pearce, in his book Magical Child, explains this evolution in the phases very, very beautifully. And any mother, I believe, should read that book before the child gets to be. The sooner the better. Joseph Chilton Pearce, Magical Child.
Magical Child. Okay. Awesome. So as somebody who's not very familiar with yoga, other than the fact that I've done some yoga physical movements, I'll say yoga practice, but it's not really practice because there wasn't really any mental training in there. It was more all body. Why don't you share with me a little bit more about the yoga that you do, how you bring in the mental mindset, the spiritual connection, and how that all serves humanity to have inner peace.
So the clarity is in understanding that unless there is inner peace, there cannot be outer peace, right? We
Right.
understand that as being almost an axiom. Now, when you do the practice in Purna Yoga, you have 4 different branches. One is heartful meditation, which you will learn about when you listen to the program with Savitri. Number 2 is asana and pranayama, which is the control of your body and the control of your breath. The third is lifestyle. And the third is lifestyle and nutrition. And the fourth is applied philosophy. So you've got the practice of the meditation, the active meditation that Savitri teaches.
Yeah.
You've got the asana and the pranayama, which I teach. In fact, I'm doing a 16-week pranayama course online now. Number 3 is the nutrition and lifestyle, because it's almost impossible to have inner peace if you're eating junk food, if you're eating chemicals, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not eating organically. The body needs good, high quality nourishment. It needs high quality air. That's why we have air filters all around. It needs high quality water. That's why we purify our water before we drink it. It needs high quality food concentrate. I eat the Sunrider foods because they're the highest vibration food on planet Earth. So all that stuff is what gives me the support for my inner peace. And then there's lifestyle changes. So we teach people how to cook. We teach people what pots and pans to use, how aluminum is so dangerous, causes Alzheimer's. We teach people not to wear shoes inside the house because they're bringing in all the chemicals and the energy from the outer world into their home. We teach them to use happy colors because dark colors lead to depression. We're teaching them all these different things because lifestyle affects your inner peace. And then the last is applied philosophy. When you take this ancient philosophy, and it's not something you go, wow, that's amazing philosophy. It's how the heck do you use it in day-to-day life? So it has to be applied for it to be viable. Otherwise, it's just something in your head. Philosophy is meaningless unless it's applied. Yeah. The shadows on the cave is nice to think about, but how is that going to be useful in your life? Yeah?
Okay, so just two things. So first of all, Aadil said something about Savitri. Savitri is one of our speakers at our live event on September 26th. She, I don't know, would you call her your wife or your partner?
She is my wife. We were married when I was 21 years old.
Okay.
But she's more than just a wife in the normal sense, because she's my meditation teacher.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a
So,
different relationship from a normal wedded relationship.
right. I just wanted to mention that because you mentioned her name a couple of times, and I wanted people to understand who we were talking about. All right. So I have the four basic areas. Now, where would I start?
So we usually start people at the physical level, because the physical is the most tangible. You can touch it, you can feel it. So we start people with the physical practice. However, in every class I teach, we will also start with Savitri's meditation techniques. Normal meditation is sort of sit, watch your breath, watch the space between your thoughts, and hope. Savitri is quite different. Savitri teaches you how to move the energies in your body so that your brain truly can become aligned. Therefore, before you practice in your body, you need to get entrained with your consciousness so that the practice has a bigger meaning than just gymnastics. Or, look, I can do a pose better than you. Therefore, we have to start the practice with the meditation, and we end the practice with the meditation. So when we are teaching, it's more holistic than just physical practice.
That's so interesting. So what else can you tell me about the connection of the meditation to bringing all those energies and breath work into the body?
Savitri will explain it in great detail, but for my purpose in Purna Yoga, heartful meditation is the methodology which is used to connect with the spirit so that the spirit can manifest in the physical body while you're doing the practice. And when you are done with the physical practice on your mat, when you get up and live life, how do you sustain that inner connection when life is always throwing curveballs at you? That's the practice of yoga.
Yeah, I would say that the practice of peace also is how do you maintain your inner peace when life is throwing dirt balls at you, right? Okay, so I feel like all my questions were asked, and yet I feel like I don't know enough about your realm of what you do. So why don't you tell me something that you haven't told me yet? And maybe you could be talking to the people that are a little bit more experienced than I am with this realm of stuff.
So let me explain. The ancient tradition of yoga was a methodology for moving away from the world into yourself and connecting with yourself, then moving up, what we call the Sushumna, the pillar of light, up and connecting with the spirit. So it was in essence practically an escape from reality, which is why the yogis used to live in caves. They moved away, they went into retreats, they left the world, if you will.
Right.
And people want to do that, right? They want to go away from the world, they want to go to retreat centers, they want to go to a place where it's so calm and so peaceful so they can forget their lives for a while. And undoubtedly that has value, but, or rather I should say, there is also value to realizing that Sri Aurobindo took that whole concept of leaving the world to find the spirit into a new understanding, which is that the spirit is the world. So you cannot point to something and say it is not God, because God is everything.
Right.
Therefore, when you can truly live three ways, then you are in connection. What are the three ways? The three ways come from my ancient lineage, which is the Zoroastrian lineage, because I'm a Parsi, the world's oldest revealed religion.
Mm-hmm.
And there are three precepts, Humata, Hukta, and Havrashta, which means good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. In the later languages, in the Pahalvi language, it's Manashni, Gavashni, Kunashni. Mana means mind, Gava means speech, and Kuna means action. So to have, and Ashoi means of light. So Mana Ashani means to have thoughts of light. Gavashni means having speech of light. And Kuna Ashni means having actions of light. So our teaching is more off the mat than on the mat, even though all our teaching is done on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied with BKS Iyengar for that many years. I may be one of the senior most teachers in the world today. I can talk about the placement of your hand in Adho Mukha Svanasana for 7 or 8 days, understanding every movement of every metacarpal bone and how it works and how the energies work. This is a deep understanding of the body, and that is wonderful. But how does it help you in day-to-day life?
Right. Okay. Now let's talk about how it does help you in every day-to-day life, but specifically when life is throwing, mud balls at you.
When life is throwing stuff at you and you lose your inner peace, it means that you don't have enough buffer in your nervous system. The nervous system needs to have enough buffer to handle life.
Hmm.
Most people live on the edge of their nervous system.
Right.
Most people eat acidic food. Most people watch television, they watch violence, they hear foul language. They live in that lifestyle which agitates the nerves. Which is why I'm just now in Los Angeles at my daughter's house, and even driving on the road, people are honking, honking, honking. They're always impatient. There's a tension in their nervous system. Anything happens and you get angry and you shout and you scream. It's road rage. It's all that stuff. Why? Because there's not enough buffer. Okay, live and let live. Get a sense of insulation in your nerves. That is the cultivation that comes from the practice of heartful meditation, from asana, Purna Yoga asana, Purna Yoga meditation. So when we teach to develop the reach of your nervous system into the different parts of your body so that you are more aware of the world around you. You're more aware of your body. You're more sensitive to how you feel so that you can always make the conditions around you conducive to your own inner peace.
Interesting. The thought, do you know anything about the adrenal system of the human body?
Yes.
Okay. So many people are adrenal fatigued, right? And when they get fatigued, their body has them do things to spend it because there's too much adrenaline, whether it's to yell at somebody or to pick a fight with somebody or to they get edgy or whatever that is. And I've always had this thought that potentially people, specifically people who have committed crimes and needed a rush, if you will, were adrenal fatigued, potentially from not eating the way they should be eating, like eating the junk food that you alluded to before. Am I totally wacko in thinking that, or am I somewhat in line with what you're thinking, or when I'm talking about the adrenal system?
So, Mimi, that is definitely one of the many factors. There are other factors as well, which include the environment that they have been surrounded with,
Yeah.
which include the forces that are beyond our understanding, what we call entities, and how they attach to people's nervous systems. But the adrenals, ad means above, and renal means kidney. So the adrenals sit above your kidneys. They are little glands that are right up there, nearing the bottom of your rib cage. And because our posture in our day-to-day life has always been a sinky posture,
Yeah.
you're pushing the force of your lungs and your heart into your adrenals all day. And as you push into your adrenals all day, they get squeezed and fatigued and they cannot function. So the physical practice of Purna Yoga Asana will help bring the energy of the adrenals back into the body, as well as stimulate the renal meridians in your back and in the back of your legs. The kidney meridians go down your legs. And all the exercises that we do, not as exercise, but as a practice, will help bring that energy back to the adrenals. But in addition to that, you are absolutely right. They have to take care of their diet. As I said earlier, I work with the Sunrider product line. It's a massive product line. It's an ancient line, 5,000 years of tradition. And we have been able to reverse the adrenal fatigue just by giving high quality nutrition.
Nice.
So you're absolutely right. Nutrition plays a huge role in adrenal fatigue and the mental impact of it. The other part is the base of your brain, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the most important nerves in the body, and most people don't even talk about it. Everything from your all your senses, to your lungs, to your heart, to your diaphragm, to your digestive system, to your kidneys, everything is controlled by the vagus nerve, which is part of the autonomic nervous system. And when we do the practice of asana correctly, we trigger the vagus response. Recent research in Ivy League schools on the east of the United States shows that the practice of pranayama, which is the practice of the breath control, actually releases the vagus nerve and is as effective as putting an electrode inside the head and triggering the vagus nerve with an electrode, which they use for epilepsy.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what else to ask you. So what is the possibility that you can show us some practices, some physical practices?
Of course, we can do physical practices.
Unless, of course, there's something else you want to impart to us.
I think one of the parts of yoga that is least understood and almost never talked about is the connection between love, light, and you. Savitri talks a lot about it, and you will hear it when she talks about it, that there are these two major forces, love and light. So in the practice, if we bring out that feeling of love and we visualize light, if you cannot see it, you visualize it, then automatically you enter that inner peace.
Repeat that time so that
Certainly. During your practice, whether it's an asana practice, or whether it's a meditation practice, or whether it's a practice of building a relationship with somebody else, if you can connect with that image of light, if you cannot see it, you imagine it. The image of light, a clear white light. And you get the feeling of love, then you develop inner peace. The feeling of love is in your heart center. It's not an emotion. Emotions are in the pelvis. This is a feeling of love. When my daughter was born, of course, we don't do medical doctors, so we had her born in our own home with a midwife who was also a naturopathic doctor. And my daughter was born in our bedroom on a cold winter day with snow on the ground outside. And I delivered her, and I cut the cord, and then my wife delivered the placenta. And then I held that little thing that was that big in my hands, who is now 27 years old. That little thing I held in my hand, and when I looked at it, I felt inside me something opening like this. As if a room, a cavity, a space was being created to love this little creature.
Wow.
It was a tangible feeling in my heart center. It wasn't in my head, it wasn't in my knees. It was in my heart center. And we say that, right? I love you with all of my heart. You don't say I love you with all of my head.
Yeah, yeah, so true.
So it is that inner beautiful connection that we have to cultivate, which we know as love. Not to be confused with sexuality, not to be confused with attachment. That's all lower nature. We're talking about love.
Right. So interesting. So interesting that you say that, because I've been in a new relationship for about 1.5 years, and every day I wake up with this feeling of enormous love here. And I'm living my days in that kind of love. And it's a new experience for me because I haven't been this kind of love before. I haven't had access to feeling that love before. And people tell me I look so peaceful. They tell me I've lost weight. They tell me I look younger. And really that's the only difference that I can think of, is that I'm allowing myself to dwell in the love coming from my heart chakra.
Beautiful, beautiful. Of course, Savitri is the queen of love, so you'll have some beautiful times with her. But just now, let's just release a little bit of stress, because the stress factor has to be overcome before we can feel good.
Okay.
So stress is released through two things. One is the breath and the other is the movement. So let us start. First, interlock your hands. Invert your interlock. Take your hands overhead and then stretch upwards. Now, as you stretch upwards, Pull the sides of your waist up, pull the sides of your rib cage up, pull the intercostals up, and then spread your shoulder blades. So spread your shoulder blades, and then lift further. And as you lift, drop your head forward. And now take a deep inhalation. And exhaling, drop your sitting bones into whatever it is you're sitting upon. And lift the bottom of your belly. With your eyes closed, feel your breath in your lungs, not in your belly, in your lungs. Expanding your rib cage and relaxing your rib cage. Take deep yogic breaths. At the end of the next inhalation, release your interlock. Exhaling, stretch your arms sideways and down. And now inhale, take your arms up, and then place your right hand, I'm reflecting you, place your right hand on top of your left hand, and then bring your palms together. This is called Garudasana, which is the name of the eagle. So hold this position. I'm going to release it so I can talk to you. Hold that position, bring your mind into the center of your spine. Inhale into that region of your upper back. And then exhaling, spread your shoulder blades away from the spine, around your rib cage, towards your elbows. As you do that, release the tension in your upper back, those rhomboids and the trapezius muscles. Release them. Inhaling, let go. And then exhaling, take your left arm on top. Bring your hands together. Bring your palms together. Hands in front of your face. Rest your thumb against your forehead so that it's pointing upwards. And again, bring your mind into your back, into your spine, and then spread your shoulder blades away from your spine on the exhalations. On the inhalations, fill that gap between your shoulder blades behind you. Inhaling, release. Now, take your right arm up, palm facing backwards, and take your left arm to the, I'm sorry, that's the other way. Make your left hand thumb point downwards, and then take your hand on your back, put the back of your hand on your spine, and then drop your right hand and hold the two hands together. So interlocking your hands behind you as much as you can. And if you can't, actually you can use a belt or a strap, something in between your hands. And now inhaling, lift your right shoulder blade up so that your elbow goes way past your head, and drop your left shoulder blade down. Inhaling, release, and then let's change. Take your left arm up, palm facing back, your right arm out, thumb facing down, and then place it behind you, and then hold your hands with the back of your right palm on your spine. And now lift your left shoulder blade, and drop your right shoulder blade down, and keep your mind in your breath, expanding your rib cage and relaxing your rib cage. Breathe in your chest, not in your belly. In yoga, we do not breathe in our belly because there are no lungs there. And breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, not through your mouth. And then inhaling, release. And then release your arms. Lift your chin, letting your head arch backwards without collapsing it backwards, but lift. And then exhaling, flex down. Inhaling, lift back to center. Exhaling, tip to your right, keeping your left side long. So you're not collapsing, but stretching. And then the other side, but do not collapse your left side. And now move your left collarbone to your left and turn your head to your right. Back to the center. Move your right collarbone to the right, turn your head to your left, and back to the center. And just you feel a little bit looser in your upper back, in your chest. Connecting the breath with your movement takes a little tension out. So as you learn practices, again, this is ultra mild, but as you learn practices, you learn to unwind the tension in all parts of your body, so you feel more at peace.
Wow. That's all I could say is wow. I can definitely feel the difference in the middle of my back between the shoulder blades, where I felt like it's been blocked. And I don't know whether that would be physical or energetic blockage or whatever, but it feels wider and smoother. I could breathe deeper. Really made a difference. Really made a difference.
Lovely, lovely.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you've imparted to us, all the different areas, sharing all your knowledge and wisdom. I feel like I could sit with you for hours, and maybe some of our listeners do too. But if they wanted to connect with you or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
There are two websites. One is my name, Aadil.com, where you learn a little bit about what I do. And the second is our membership website, which is called aliveandshinecenter.com. Alive and Shine Center. So think about these two words, alive and shine. Alive and Shine Center, CENTER.com. If you go to that website, you will get some introductory videos and you will have access to our teachings online in this current condition.
And if people want to do more than the introductory stuff, will the website tell them how they can do that?
The website has everything from daily classes, we do live classes, to a whole library from beginning to advanced.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. I am clear when I get off the phone with you, that's where I'm going, or off the Zoom. Thank you so much for connecting with me today, connecting with our listeners and bringing us the value of the yoga that you're practicing, which I'm sorry I can't pronounce the name of it, but bringing us that value so that we have access to everyday world peace moment by moment. And thank you for taking it and bringing it out to the planet, to the world, so that people do have access to world peace and that you make that difference with the world. So much appreciated, so much. And I think I've said this to you before, is it's so great to know that there's somebody on the other side of the world, even if it's only a 3-hour time difference, that is impacting peace on the planet while I'm doing it over here. So thank you for what you provide. So much appreciated.
You're so very welcome.
Thank you. And I'll say goodbye for now.